Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We are working on this beautiful Williams Road Kings pinball machine for a customer. This is our friend Paul. He brought us two machines. We already fixed his Space Invaders, so if you didn't see that, go back and check it out. But now we need to check out his Road Kings. So I talked to Paul on the phone, and he said that he gave Joey a complete list of everything that needed to be done. And I tried to explain to him, look, this ain't my first rodeo, okay? I know what you're going to do. I know what Joe did. He did the little joke with the note and everything. Whoa. The Jurassic Park's working. He did the little nut trick with the note where he doesn't really tell me what's wrong with it. So, you know, I didn't even look at the note. I know better. So, we're going to check it out, though, just to make sure everything looks good inside of it. I'm going to turn down that one pinball. We're going to check out everything inside of it just to make sure that nothing got jostled around in shipping. And then we'll try to turn it on and just see what's wrong with it, what it needs, and we'll fix it. Because that's what we do. Stay tuned. Okay, so I slid the glass out. One of the things that's interesting about this one is I think it had Mylar put on it, and then someone cleared over the Mylar. You see the ripples in it? So you don't see that too often, but I think that's what went on. I think it had full Mylar, or a lot of Mylar, and someone cleared over it. So it's a little wavy. But it looks pretty good. I mean, there's some dirt down under there. They didn't get it completely 100% clean whenever they did it, but they touched a lot of it back up. Look, you can see, I did one of these a while back because I can remember painting this gun back in. So this cannon here, the gray stripes there, I wonder if I did this one. I don't think I did. I definitely didn't clear it. Okay. So it all looks pretty good, though. I mean, it looks nice and bright and colorful and fun to play. I like this game. But here's the dirty little secret. I like all the games. I don't see anything jumping out at me that's out of place on it. It looks like that ramp is probably new. The Y ramp there. Everything looks good. All right, so let's pop up the Playfield and look under it. First thing I noticed, look at this. Little telltale sign here. Broken glass. So basically, if you ever break the glass on a pinball machine, you can't get it all out. The little glass goes everywhere. So what probably was going on was maybe it was under this board here or something, and then whenever he moved it and brought it to us, more of it popped out. But I'll bet at some point the whole Playfield glass shattered on this thing. There's a whole bunch of parts and manuals and stuff here too. So he's been keeping her up. Now, if we look under the board, under the table, you know, people talk about how these were stripped down around this era, but this one has a lot going on, really. I mean, 1, 2, there's a relay back there too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I count 15 coils, counting the flippers. So it's got a lot going on, really. Something that happens on these boards a lot is these resistors for the flashers unsolder themselves. But these all look pretty good. And it looks like at least the one coil has been replaced at some point. Maybe not that one. But it looks like also it has all new plunger and crank and all that stuff. Let's see. Oh, now on his last one, on this Space Invaders here, the end of stroke switches weren't that great. Let's see if this one, what we got going on. Yes, that's fine. End of stroke switch is fine there. Let's try this one. And it's fine there. Okay, So that's nothing. All right, so I would just like to look inside of them just to make sure something didn't bounce around and get screwed up before we power it up. So all of that looks good. Let's look in the back box. So one of the interesting things about Road Kings is that they made the translite or the back glass out of plexiglass. So usually they're in great shape. Now, one, it's kind of cool because it covers up the speaker, but they just cut holes in it since it's plexiglass. It's just an interesting design. One thing I've seen, though, is sometimes people will put the wrong flash bulbs in. If you put some flash bulbs in that are really bright and really hot, it could actually burn some of the art off. I saw one that was like that once. Okay, so this has the X-Pin LED displays installed in it. We're getting to the point where a lot of the original plasma displays are just on borrowed time because eventually they wear out and they don't make the plasma tubes anymore. So there's no fixing it. It's literally a glass display that if all the juice leaks out, you're done. So they make some LED displays. These X-Pin ones are really nice. He's actually, the same customer owns both of these, and he's actually got the same company's LED displays in this Space Invaders, and the thing looks just like plasma displays. You cannot tell the difference. Now on these you can tell a little bit because whenever it's turned off you can see those white lines. So if you get really close, you know, you can tell that these are not original, but they look really good, and they don't need the high voltage. So that makes it better. It's got the old school 4x10, I guess that is, speaker in it, like they used to have in the old cars. Very cool. That's factory. This is the System 11 master display board that runs the displays. Looks like it's, most of it at least, is running on the original cables. That's all cool. Alright, so back here in the back, power comes in, comes up here. This capacitor here is for the computer controlled lamps. There's a fuse there for something. There's a flipper board here that does the power, the 50 volts just for the flippers, and that's brand new. That's been replaced. Golf Pinball flipper power supply. There are 4 fuses here that are for general illumination. And then here are the famous 2 bridge rectifiers that aren't fused. So it's basically if either one of these bridge rectifiers shorts out, and they all do eventually, it might catch the wiring on fire because it should have a fuse on it. The fuse for these is on the other side of the transformer, so it doesn't work very well. All right, and there's that brand new Golf Pinball power supply in it as well. So shouldn't have too many power supply problems, you wouldn't think. Look how they've designed this so that you can plug in either of the general illumination connectors that it takes. Pretty cool. Makes it kind of universal. Alright, and then it has an original System 11 MPU. Or is this System 9? I always get that screwed up. I think it's System 11. They're very similar. It has an original System 11 CPU that is in very nice shape from what I can see. Nothing's scorched or burnt up. And then up here you have the soundboard. Now there's also some sound stuff is handled on the main MPU on System 11. So this may be System 11A maybe, I can't remember. It's not super important. Let's see if we've got, it looks like there maybe it's not quite as clean as I think it is. I see some stuff here. What's going on there? So that is just below the batteries. So I don't know if this has been cleaned up or what the deal is. Might have a little something going on. Now the holders look fine, but they probably would have been replaced at some point. The problem that you run into with battery damage on this board set is that the traces for this ribbon cable run right underneath the battery holder. And then these PIAs here, 6821 peripheral interface adapters, run the display. And I think the switches, I believe. So if you get damage there, it really screws your display up. Alright, so everything looks pretty cool. Alright, so we're just going to fire it up and see what it does and does not do. Alright, so I'm not super concerned about checking voltages because it's got a brand new power supply in it. So let's just see what it does when we go live. Here we go! Dead as hell. What? Let's try it one more time. So what I'm looking at is that LED there. So we're on right now. We're off. We're on. You should get something there. Also, I would not be surprised if that Gulf power supply doesn't have LEDs on it. It doesn't, though. There's no LEDs on it. Okay, so we've got something messed up. It looks like this fuse is probably cooked. Now, you can't really judge a fuse by just looking at it, okay? You really need to test it with a multimeter. However, once you do it a while, you can't, let me put it this way. You can't tell a good fuse by looking at it, but you sometimes can tell a bad fuse by looking at it. That fuse is bad. Okay. Okay, that fuse, probably bad. It's all crooked and everything. They're not like that. That fuse, probably good. That fuse, probably good. That fuse, probably good. That fuse, probably good. So you can't tell that they're good by looking at them 100%, but you can sometimes tell they're bad just by looking at them. It looks like we got a couple of them here that are bad. So let me pull those out and see if they look like they're the right size or if they've been swapped with the wrong size or anything like that, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I have pulled out the brand new power supply, but I don't know for sure how old it is. It's a newer power supply, but I'm looking at this. You know, a lot of this stuff, you know, they make it with the new solder because that's legal. But I don't know that new solder lasts as long, so I don't know, man. So this is newer for sure, but it's already kind of, the solder doesn't look great, but I don't know that it's an issue. Okay, so the reason I pulled this out was two reasons. Well, really one reason. I broke the fuse holder. So I pulled out this fuse, and then the fuse holder, it didn't seem like it was as tight as it needed to be, so I squeezed it a little bit and broke the thing. China. Now this board is a good board, so I'm not saying anything about these people. I'm just saying, you know, a lot of components now come from China. So if I squeezed this, for instance, it would probably break too. Okay, so here's the deal. This is a 3 amp fuse, and this one is a 7 amp fuse, and they're both blown. So that is the input to the 5 volt section that runs everything. it's kind of confusing the way this is silkscreen, but again, it's not because of this company or anything. It's just it's a strange setup. The original one was a strange setup. So over here it says 10 amp installed. See manual for actual value, because this is different for each game. That fuse is still good. This one says F4. No, it says 4 amp slow blow. 4 amp slow blow. This one says 8 amp slow blow. That one says a 1/4 amp slow blow. All of those are correct, and they're still fine. And then over here it says 5 amp, and then it says 7 amp slow blow. So it gives you two different numbers here. So the 7 amp slow blow is D8345. Now if you come over here, the reason there's two different numbers is because this will work for the old Williams power supplies and the newer Williams power supplies. So since this is in a System 11 game, it is acting as if it's a D8345. They just designed one board that will replace two different boards. And thank God they did. So what that means is it's a D8345 is how we're using it, right? So it needs to be a 7 amp slow blow, but I only show it under this, but it's also under this. Both of these fuses are actually the same. So both of these are supposed to be 7 amp slow blows. One is a 7 amp slow blow that's blown, and one is a 3 amp slow blow that's blown. So somebody has replaced this at some point with the wrong fuse. So we need to have a 7 amp in here and a 7 amp in here. And both of those, I believe, run through these diodes. Yes. So here's the fuses. And you see they run into these diodes. They run up to here, where they, this filter capacitor. And then you see test point 4, negative 12 volts. And this travels up here, negative 12 volts. Okay, well, it doesn't have anything to do with the 5. Let's see where the 5 test point comes from. It's coming from over here, okay. Oh, wait a minute. Wait just a cotton picking minute. Yeah. So I believe it's the same thing. Yeah. So see, the voltage goes here and then runs through the diodes, and some of that is coming this way, goes to this huge filter capacitor, which is basically what is creating the 5 volt. So it's killing the negative 12 volt and the 5 volt because those two fuses are screwed up. So they're very important fuses. Now here's the other problem. Why are they blown? If something like that blows, usually they could be because of a component on the board, but since it's a newer board, you wouldn't think so. But usually it's something severe, like a lightning strike or something, you know. So I don't know why it's messed up. So let's check these diodes, though. We can do that just to make sure. You know, to blow, though, the diodes would have to short, which would probably, I mean, it's a big old 10 amp diode. Or is it a 6 amp? I think it's a 6 amp diode. You'd think it would smoke up. So let's test it. I have my fluke here. People have been asking me why I haven't been using this fluke. It's because I just haven't gotten used to it yet. Someone donated this to us, if you can believe it. So let's see if I can figure it out how. I'm going to do it with chopsticks. See if we can test these diodes. That's not going. Well, this is not cooperating. What am I doing wrong? guess I should have left it attached to the, maybe I should have left it attached to here for longer. Off. Back on. Well, that's why I haven't used it yet, because I don't know how to use it. Got some problem with the leads or something? This is not improving my video yet. I'm going to have to do some research on the proper way to use this multimeter before I start filming videos with it. So we're going to have to go back to Old Faithful for a few minutes. All right. Whoop. Well, if I can get a good reading. Okay, first diode. Second diode. Third diode. Fourth diode. Okay, so the only thing I see wrong with this board is that 2 fuses were blown and that I broke the fuse clip when I was playing with it. So I'm going to replace the fuse clip, and then we're going to replace both of the fuses and just try it again. Maybe some fluke thing happened at his house, and then once he, I don't know what's going on. And the board the main MPU may have a lot of problems too. But the only thing wrong with this is that. All right, so I replaced the fuse clip, put the fuses back in, pop the board back in. I don't have any of the outputs plugged in. Boy, say that 3 times real fast. I've got the inputs plugged in, but we're not turned on yet. And I'm going to check these bridge rectifiers. These are the ones that are known for, you know, shorting out, blowing slap to crap up. We'll have to do this with 2 hands, folks. All right, I was holding the lead colors there are confusing. The positive I was thinking was red. That's actually the AC lines. The positive is the orange. The black is the ground. Same thing down here. The blue are the AC lines. The purple is the positive, and then the black is the ground. So I checked it. You know, I've showed you how to do that 100 times, but I checked all of those. Everything's cool. So that didn't blow the fuse. I wonder, this flipper board has been replaced, and there's the original one inside of it. I wonder if they had some kind of problem with that. What are we? That's always fun to see. I hope they're all right. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on, and let's just see if it blows the fuses with nothing plugged in, except the inputs. What do you think? If it does, the good news is, if I get the hell shocked out of me tonight, at least the ambulance is right out front. So, you know, help is just a loud scream away. Okay, so let's see if the fuses blow or what happens. Nothing. Huh. Do we have everything plugged in? We are plugged in. I don't know, Paul. Let's see if this... There's power here. We're completely dead. We must have another blown fuse somewhere. Let me see if I can track down where the main fuse is. So the power cord comes into this box. There's a little fuse there, but it's fine. And there is a service outlet right here. And if I check the voltage there, I have 123 volts in the machine. Okay. So then the power comes out of there and it runs down here to this switch. The switch looks fine. Not a broken wire or anything. And then the power should come out of that and power up this transformer. So maybe there is a switch problem, or maybe whenever I took the fuse out, maybe that wasn't making good contact or something. Or maybe, since I don't have the I don't have any of the GI plugged in, so I probably just can't tell that it's turned on. Ah, I think I can hear it. Yeah, I think we're up. Okay, so let me lay this back down and we'll check the voltages on the power supply. All right, so our negative 12 is negative 14.82. Our 5 is 5.14. And our positive 12 is 14.23. So we've got those. There's 100 volts as well. I'm doing this with one hand. I don't want to screw with it. You don't really even need the 100 volts because the displays aren't in it. It's got the new displays. So our outputs are fine. So I think we're ready to just plug everything back up and see if the board will boot now, or see if that causes it to blow the fuses. Keep in mind though that I checked these two bridge rectifiers, which could have been the cause, and they check out fine. So I'm going to turn it off, plug everything in, and then we're going to turn it back on while we watch it once more to make sure that they don't blow. Alright, so this will be the whole shebang. Everything's plugged back in. Smoke test, we're literally looking to see if anything starts smoking, if a fuse blows, if something locks on. If it does, be prepared to turn it right back off. So we're going to turn it on and then maybe right back off and then turn it back on. That's why they call it a smoke test. Did you hear that? It was cooking those fuses. So something on that line, the 5-volt line, or the negative 12-volt line, is smoking something. Holy crap. And this board never even tried to boot. So something was, I heard it sizzling, and it was basically these fuses were turned off now. Oh, I see it. I see it. That don't look right. What the hell, man? I don't know. Why would it do that if the... Why would it do that if it is fine and the voltage is there when none of the outputs are plugged in? So the way that you can figure something like this out is the board never tried to boot. That's probably because the 5 volts isn't there. Okay? So we had the 5 volts with nothing plugged in, so now the output's plugged in, the 5 volts is not there. That's probably because somewhere something is shorted 5 volts to ground. So the way you can find it is you can check between the resistance between 5 volts and ground and see if there's a short. If there is, that's your test assistant. So then you just start unplugging stuff until the short to ground goes away, and then you focus on that area. If I was going to guess, I'm looking at you, soundboard. Yeah, I see you over there, shorting my damn 5 out. If I was going to guess, that's what I would guess. It could be anything, though. Anything that the 5 volts connects to could be a problem. So let me check and just see if there's a short between 5 and ground with everything still plugged in. Sure enough, right now, the ground and the 5 are shorted together. So what that's doing is it's cooking this freaking cap, which is fine. I mean, I got caps, but I just hate seeing crap get damaged. You know what I mean? So there is a short between ground and 5. Now, there was not when we had all the outputs unplugged. You saw me test the 5 volts. It was 5.14 volts. You saw that, right? So the problem is not on this board. However, now the problem is on this board because it cooked the freaking cap. So now you got 2 problems. This is how people end up throwing boards at stuff, you know. It appears that the problem is on this board, but it's not. It's somewhere else, shorting it out. Now, and like I said, in my opinion, it might be the soundboard. Let's try that. So what you would do is unplug the freaking soundboard. It may even be that it's plugged in wrong, and that's the problem. So I'm just going to unplug everything off the soundboard. Okay. Now we're going to test it again. That did not fix it, so it had nothing to do with the soundboard. So we can plug that back in. I still think it was a good guess. Now, why would I think that? Because the I was just thinking that because if the sound amp had fried. You know what though? The sound amp isn't on the soundboard. It's right there. I don't know if this runs off of 5. I don't think it does actually, but we'll unplug this just for giggles. I don't think it has anything to do with it, but just to make sure. Yep, short is still there with that board unplugged. So let's plug all that back in. Alright, so that's not it. It wouldn't be these. These aren't doing 5 volts. Could be this. This gray wire here is actually 5. Now this is a brand new board. Surely it's not screwed up. So it's probably not that, but we'll check. Yep, it's not that. So we still got the short with that board unplugged. We'll plug it back in. Okay, so probably the main board. If I can remember where power comes in, looks like right here. I believe that's the main power line. Of course, if you leave it on long enough, you would run into the problem where it would fry the power supply so badly that it would be shorted, even with that unplugged. Okay, we no longer have a short on the power supply board. Okay, so I know a lot of you folks that watch this deep into these electronics videos are very knowledgeable about electronics, but a lot of people that are watching this are just trying to learn about pinball machines and stuff. So I'm just going to backtrack again just to make it incredibly simple what I did. We turned on the game with nothing plugged, only power running into the power supply and none of the power running out of the power supply. Okay, when I checked it, all of the voltages were there. If I plugged in all of the outputs so that everything was plugged into the power supply like it's supposed to be, now when it comes on, I start hearing something sizzling. I noticed the 2 fuses for the 5-volt supply look charred. They may not be burnt yet, but they were on their way out. One of the capacitors in the 5-volt section is visibly damaged now, right? So that would make you think, oh, there's a problem with the power supply board. But if you notice, it didn't happen until I plugged everything else in. Okay. Then if I unplug this, the power supply still has a short on it. So what it's doing is it's making 5 volts, and then the ground is shorted somewhere to the 5 volts. So that screws it all up, and it's a serious short, and that's why the cap is screwing up, right? So something on the other end of the output, something that it is supplying 5 volts to, and since it's on the 5-volt line, we know it's the 5 volts, right? So something that it is supplying 5 volts to is screwed up. So this board, it looks like, doesn't even get 5 volts, but if I unplugged it, the short was still here. If I unplugged the soundboard, the short was still here. If I unplugged this display master board, the short was still there. But if I unplug the main board, the short is gone now. So now there's no short on the 5 volts. If I turned it on now with this unplugged, you could actually test 5 volts in there. I just don't want to do it because that cap is damaged now and I want to replace it first. Okay, so now if I were to take this board and take it to the desktop, I mean to the desk, the workshop, I can use my meter and I should be able to test between the 5 and the ground on this board and it be shorted. But then you got to go through the board and find where the 5-volt is shorted to the ground. It's somewhere on that board. There's a few places that are more likely Like again, that audio amp, I don't know if it runs on 5.0, it might run on 12. So there may be a capacitor somewhere that's shorted. It may be an actual physical short where something is touching something or whatever. If I can find the test point on here, well, I can probably do it across a cap. Let's see if we can do it across a cap. If I can do my chopstick thing. The cap isn't shorted out. So hopefully we'll get lucky and it's not the entire board. When I removed this plug, we didn't have it didn't fix it. When I removed this plug, it removed the short. So it could be that section, J15 there, runs its power separately. Maybe because it's the audio. Let me plug this main one in and see if it's still shorted. Yeah, so with the main power plug in, it is not shorted. But if you plug in this smaller one on 15, watch it not be shorted now. Now it's shorted. Okay, cool. All right, so if we plug in IJ15, which again is right by the audio amp, and a suspect as hell capacitor, we've got a short. So let's go look at the schematics and see if we can track that down. Okay, so I've got a manual here, but it's not right. So this is the System 11 board, but you just saw where we were. We've got power here, and then we had power over here. This has the speakers here. Well, on the board that we have, the volume control does not plug in here. There is a jumper that goes from here up to the background soundboard, and a jumper here that goes up to the background soundboard. And then the connection I'm looking at was like over here somewhere. So we've got a System 11A. So I think I think it's 11A. I need to look at the next set of manuals because these don't line up with the board we've got. So let me see. These are the schematics for the older board set, I believe. They have IJ15 as where you plug the speaker in. Okay, so let me do some digging and see if I can find the correct one. Come on, people. Come on now. Come on, Paul. What are you doing, Paul? Come on now. I'm going to blame Williams on this one. Paul, we're going to give you a pass, buddy. We're going to blame Williams. Look, just read the comments down below. Everybody's going to tell you that this is Williams' fault. This is not Paul's fault. Okay, so there is a ribbon cable. So this is the background soundboard. And this is the soundboard that does the sound effects and stuff like that. So there is a ribbon cable. They call it the widget connection that goes from here up to this board. And that's the data, right? This is a connection to route the audio signals back down to the board because the amplifier is here. Okay, this is the volume control, and there's an empty plug. So there's 3 pins on this plug. Now, why is there an empty plug? Well, it needs to get power somehow. Sometimes they'll run power through a ribbon cable, but it's not really a good idea. So, if you remove our extra cable here, that looks like it fits right there. If you notice, that has 4 pins, and this cable has 3 pins, but they didn't put a key in it. That's our power connector for the soundboard. So if it's plugged in properly to the soundboard instead of the speaker connection, you don't have a short on your power supply. So when I talked to Paul, he said he couldn't get the thing to boot. That's because the power was shorted out, because the power supply was sending 5 volts into the freaking audio amp, which has probably fried it. And then here's the other cord. And this is the one that actually goes to that connector. They shouldn't have made it where it's that easy to get them screwed up. So, you know, if you don't, I mean, look at all these damn connectors. They need to really make them where people know how to plug them in, don't they? It's confusing. I think I've done the same thing before. Don't worry about it, Paul. It's not that big of a deal. Now, the power supply might still be fried, but we're going to check that here in a second. Yeah. But let me show you how I'm going to fix this problem. So this is a special thing here, right? So about 3 years ago, I figured out the part number of the little plastic plug that's supposed to go in there. So I'm going to put that in there to make it where you can't plug it in the wrong spot anymore. I got it kind of crooked, but you get the point. So if you try to plug it in somewhere it's not supposed to go, it ain't going to go. All right, we may have got lucky. The speaker itself was never plugged in, so it's fine. But I was running 5 into one of these and ground into the other side. And with it plugged in, with the speaker plugged in and everything, we don't get our little short that we had. So the power supply is probably happy now, although that cap needs replaced. But really this this audio amp, all we were doing was putting 5 volts somewhere where it didn't want 5 volts. You know, it's 5 volts, and it might not have screwed it up. I don't know. There's only one way to tell. That's to just turn the thing on. But we're not going to do that yet. I'm going to unplug the output of the 5 volt. And we're going to check our 2 fuses that look a little crispy to me. Let's see if these are blown yet. That one's not. And that one's not. Okay. And 5 and ground are not shorted. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn the thing on. Watch it for a second. See if that cap's pissed off. And then we'll check the 5 volts with nothing, without the 5 volts, and none of the output of the 5 volts plugged in. But it may still blow the fuse. That cap may be screwed up. Seems happy now. You don't think it's going to blow up my face, do you? Right in my face. Oh, still testing resistance. We need to test DC voltage. That's different. 5.14. Okay, Paul. So the reason it wouldn't boot, the plug was just plugged in the wrong spot. Okay, so let's turn her back off. I'll let y'all see the big bang. Ooh, Lordy. Ooh, this is scary. Ooh, Lord. What do you think, folks? Is this going to fry some stuff? Are we about to barbecue? Whoa! Guess what I just heard? I just heard a pop from the speaker. It can't do that with a bad audio amp. It can't do... Come on now. It can't do it with a bad audio amp. That audio amp has been saved. Now remember, folks, if you bring your stuff to us, Joe's Video Games has the power to heal your pinball machines. Okay, here we go. Boom. Boom. With the sound and everything, Paul. What do you think about that, buddy? I got lamps. I got displays. I heard a click, click, which sounds like a solenoid to me. I got a LED display. We won't talk about, I mean, you know, come on. I know what y'all are saying. I know what you're thinking. Got a few light bulbs out on the pop bumpers. I think he may have mentioned that. I don't know. Okay. So let's see if she'll do anything. Let me shut this front door. Well, there's no ball. I think we got some more blown fuses on our solenoids. Or is it a... Oh, I think we're in a track mode still. Yeah, we're still in track mode. There's no credits on it, folks. This is why I don't film this stuff straight through, you know. How do I turn up the volume on this bad boy? Where is my volume pot? I see it in there. Sure sounds like background sound, doesn't it?
Engine will be powered.
Right on. Okay, folks, so I'm still messing with it. One thing is, all of the lights in the top left don't work. So this one was out too, and I messed with it a little bit, and it was the lamp holder. So I was able to retension that and get it where that one comes on. Neither one of these two will work. They look fine on the bottom, and then this one doesn't work. I took the cover off to look at it. So I imagine that's probably what's going on there too. There must be a wire broke somewhere. So looks like we're dark over here. There's going to be a wire broke either here or over here that runs all that stuff. So I'm going to turn the table up, and we'll see if we can find the broke wire. The only way to track down something like this is to...
Who among you will challenge us?
I was talking! Anyway, the only way to really find this stuff is to play a little scavenger hunt. So they daisy chain them all together. So somewhere where there is a light working, it's the end of the line, and then the next light in the line, and all the ones after that don't work. So it's either over here or right here. He keeps talking. Okay, so the lamp that's over here is lit. So I was saying, oh, it must be daisy chain. There's nothing over here for it to daisy chain to. All of the ones that are messed up are back here, and they have a white and yellow wire running to one side of them. You can see it down here on this one pretty good, or one of them. There's a white and yellow wire running to one side and a yellow wire running to the other side. So some of those are just plugged straight into that wire, and they're not on either. So actually, I'm going to rescind my previous comment. This is probably not a broke wire. It's probably a broken fuse, which isn't great, because sometimes whenever the fuse is bad, there's a reason that it blew. So we might have a shorted socket somewhere that's blowing that fuse. So let me look at the fuses in the back box. So on these, you have these 4 fuses here. It's, I guess, for the 4 sections of the Playfield. So the second one, the white and yellow one, is the one that's not working. Anything? Do we have any results yet? Okay, no results. Those wires come from this connector originally. Nothing. Okay, well, I'm going to check the fuse with a multimeter and see if it's all right. All right, see, we got to get creative with it. The fuse was blown. It looked fine, but it was blown. So the chances that it's going to re-blow are high. So I put a little circuit breaker in here that's soldered to a fuse, okay, so that it doesn't burn up all my fuses. So it may come up and it just works fine. It may come up and the there's a short somewhere and it's going to blow it again. Sometimes when something's shorted on these lamp circuits like this, where it's running a whole bunch of lamps off one line, you can tell where the short is by what it does when it just before it blows the fuse. So one of them might glow extra bright, one of them might not work, and all the other ones do, something like that. So sometimes it'll give you a clue of where the problem is if you just before it blows the fuse. So it's not going to blow the fuse; it's going to trip a breaker if it does it, or it might just be fine. It could be that someone was changing the bulbs and shorted something while they were doing that, and it blew the fuse, and they just never replaced the fuse. The fuse looked brand new, but testing with the meter is definitely bad. And then also, the reason I didn't catch that at first is I forgot those were on here. I'm used to doing a lot more of like the older Bally's, and they didn't use separate fuses for different areas of the GI. They hadn't came up with that yet. But this is a Williams System 11. All right, so we're going to see if anything over here glows brightly and then shorts out. No, looks fine. Anything smoking? Everything looks good. So it's just a fuse that looked good but was bad. You can't tell by looking at them. I'll show you the perfect looking fuse. All right, well, I couldn't find the fuse. I already threw it away, but you saw it on the video just prior to that. So put a new one in, and it's not blowing. So it must have just been some freak thing where it blew at some point, whatever. Maybe the fuse itself failed. It doesn't happen often, but it could have. All of the lights are working. I think we're good. I'm going to test play it a little bit, but I need to do the little bridge rectifier mod. So I mentioned that earlier. Basically, the AC wires that are coming up to these bridge rectifiers don't have a fuse in them. And because of that, if either one of the bridges shorts together, which they will eventually, instead of blowing that fuse, it's going to start burning up the wires because it's not going to be able to blow the fuse on the other side of the transformer. This is a known design flaw in these things. So what you do is you take one of the blue wires of the bottom one, either one of them, you take one of the blue wires and put a fuse in the line. And then you take on the top one of the red wires and you put a fuse in that line. So if it shorts, it will pop that fuse. And it'll pop that fuse, and that'll be the end of that. So what I do is I just mount them here on the side, run the wires to it, and then run it off that onto the bridge. Easy peasy. So that's how you want to do it. Check that out. Doesn't that look professional? So these little fuse holders we use pretty much just for this. Sometimes we need them for arcade games, but usually it's these. And you put an 8 amp fuse, slow blow fuse in there, right? So we always need these things. And our buddy Shane knocked off an arcade operator. And I mean that in the best way. And the guy had a ton of them, like thousands of them. So he kept threatening he was going to bring us some. And he finally did. He brought us hundreds of them. And those are a couple of them there. So thank you, Shane. We appreciate it. Put this in Paul's machine here. So we got to turn it on and make sure I didn't screw anything up whenever I did that. Yep, it's completely dead. It could just be that it's unplugged. So I got to redo that part of the video. Shane knocked off an operator, got us a bunch of fuse holders. They're good. Thank you, Shane. All right, so let's see if I screwed anything up whenever I did that. Well, all the lights still work, and that's one of the fuses. And then the click click that you heard was a relay coming on, which runs off the solenoid voltage, so that's still working. So I guess we're good with that. The general illumination lights are working. There's a hum in the audio. I don't fix hum in the audio, people. I know that drives some people crazy. It don't bother me at all. It's just you chasing your tail for just the smallest little benefit. It's not my thing. And Paul didn't say that he wanted me to fix the hum in the audio, so we're going to leave that how it is. So I got to test play it a little bit, make sure everything works. I think we're done, though. Okay, I'm testing it a little bit. One thing I noticed is that the kickers aren't scoring. It's looking for the ball. Here we go. So that's bouncing off the kicker. No score. Let's see if we can figure out why that is. Maybe it's made like that. Wires, everywhere wires. Okay, so the kickers, the way they work is when the ball, this is the switch going through the playfield, and the ring is wrapped around it. When the ball hits that, it tells the computer, hey, the ball just hit me. And the computer says, okay, I'll turn on the coil. And so it turns on the coil, and this little lever pushes against the ring on the top and kicks the ball away, right? And then at the same time, this little bar allows this switch to close. But if you look, see the long blade of the switch there? See how I can move it and it doesn't move the small blade? That's because it's not quite touching it. So you want it to do that, right? So the way you fix that is you bend the small blade back up a little bit. It's a little too far open. So now whenever it does it, It still might not be touching. It's hard to do this with one hand. I think it's still not touching. So you got to bend, you got to get this to where it's open, and then whenever this pulls in, it closes. That's the problem. And I don't think anybody misadjusted that. I think they just moved apart over the years. They probably haven't been moved back together in quite a while. But basically, when this fires, when it allows that switch to close, that's what scores the points. All right, I think I got it. Let's try a game.
Vengeance will be ours.
Now, I've already done a full video on Road Kings before. It's a cool old game. Designed by Mark Ritchie, Steve Ritchie's brother. Interesting little shot there. I like the music too. Nice little bonus ladder. Oh, if I can get a shot going here. Whoop. There's the other side. Oh, come on now. Oh. I gotta show you the ramp. The other ramp. There you go. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Fight the Road Kings.
Fight the Road Kings. Whoa. That didn't last long. We got a couple little things going on. So the right pop bumper, not quite as, the switch isn't quite as sensitive as it should be. And the ramp, I'm not sure if the ramp is working properly.
We'll be back, Jack.
All right, the ramp does work. You just have to lock the balls twice. Very cool. What a smooth shot. Pretty sweet. All right, so there you go, folks. That is Williams Road Kings. Oh, that's the deal. It ain't going all the way down because of the rubber ring next to it. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Very fixable. All right, adjusted the ramp, the rubber ring, and the right thumper. They seem to be better now. The right thumper bumper. It's so hard to do a whole repair in one video. It just, there's too much stuff. There's always like 100 little things. And then whenever I do it, people always come along and they're like, "Ah, you didn't get the light bulb." I would have done this. Let me get off my couch. Oh, right down the middle. And then I get the wine drinkers.
We'll be back, Jack.
So the wine drinker comments are like this. Well, I've always found that, you know, the ones with the ramps that return to the end lanes, they're just not as fun as the other ones. Let me take a sip of this expensive shit. Right? So you got some people that act like they're too good for it, and then you got other people that complain about every little light bulb and everything. It's hard to do videos on YouTube, people. It's a lot harder than you would think. It's not hard like digging a ditch is hard, but it's hard in its own way because people are freaking crazy. So there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I know most of you did. I think we've got it planned a lot better. Remember, before it wouldn't even boot up. And we've got all the lights working, I believe. And it's pretty smooth. And it sounds good. Fun little game. I like it. You know what? If I was going to rate this one, I'd give it a 10. This game's a 10 out of 10. Love it. So, I will see you on the next video. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. We didn't have to do that, people. Thank you, Paul, for bringing it by. I'm going to call Paul and let him know the thing's ready, and he can come try it out, and we'll see what he thinks. We'll see you on the next video. Hey, don't forget to check out my brother, Donnie. My brother has his own channel here on YouTube. We work on arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes here at the shop, but my brother, Donnie, has a channel where he works on arcade games. I mean, he works on old buildings. There's somebody calling right now. That might be him there. He works on old buildings, works on old vehicles, and things like that. So I'm over there with him on his channel a lot. Go check it out. It's called the My Brother Donnie channel, and we will see you on the next video. All right, folks, if you've made it this deep in the video, you're probably a pretty big fan. I just want to let you know we have yet another new t-shirt. This is our third t-shirt that we've made over time. This is the front lapel of it. Right, and this is a more traditional t-shirt. It's 50% polyester, 50% cotton. Right? And this is the back of the shirt. We had a lot of people asking for one that had a pinball machine on it instead of an arcade game on it. So there you go. If you're interested in one of these, email us or call us. They're $25 and $5 shipping. And we've got sizes small, medium, large, extra large, double XL, and triple XL. So all the same price. So, hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you on the next one. It's not broke anymore. We fixed it. Now this thing is broke.